What is going on, trainers? DrumVillain here, bringing you some more PvP content. 'Tis the season, that means it's cold, it's snowy. Well, actually, here in the north of England, it's just wet and miserable. But I'm sure somewhere in the northern hemisphere, it's cold and snowy and really pretty wintry vibes. If you're in the southern hemisphere, I'm sure you're enjoying your summer vibes. A shout out to you. But either way, the Holiday Cup is here, and that brings with it new metas, new teams to talk about, and we're here to showcase a really exciting team that I put together kind of on the fly, running double ghosts, and it's really strong. I haven't had a negative set with this team. We're climbing up pretty fast. I actually purposely tanked last week in Ultra League to try and make the matchups a little bit faster to find, and I'm climbing that score back up rapidly with this team. So the Holiday Cup, for those not in the know, is a limited meta cup that takes place in the Great League, so 1500 CP and under, and the only Pokemon allowed, I believe, are normal, grass, electric, flying, ghost, and ice type Pokemon. And if your Pokemon's only got one of those typings, if it's dual typing, as long as one of those is on that list, you're fine to use it. So regular Stunfisk, which is part electric type, you can use, but Galarian Stunfisk that doesn't have either of those types, you can't use it. So this makes for a nice, interesting meta, and it's really good for any trainers that can't necessarily compete in the Ultra League because they don't have the necessary Pokemon to keep up, like those XLs and those legendary Pokemon that really dominate the Ultra League scene. And maybe you don't have the hardest meta Great League Pokemon available. Maybe you haven't built Azumarill and Mandibuzz and these super strong Pokemon, and maybe you want to try something with a little bit more versatility and you can put some of your spicier picks to use. Holiday Cup's brilliant for that. Right, so let's talk about today's team. On the lead, we have got Greedent, and I have a rank 1 Greedent. This is the best PvP IV spread you can have. It's the bulkiest a Greedent can be in the Great League. 0 attack, 12 defense, and 14 HP. Greedent's fantastically versatile with Bullet Seed, Body Slam, and Crunch for really versatile coverage and very spammy charge moves. On the safe swap, we've got Froslass. Froslass is a devastatingly strong safe swap. Probably the best safe swap, maybe one of the best in Holiday Cup, but in other cups come and gone, Froslass was arguably the best. And then in the back, we've also got Drifblim, which offers similar threatening coverage with those ghost moves. It's got Icy Wind for nice coverage against different Pokemon, and also that attack debuff. Now, bear in mind, you don't need PvP IVs for these Pokemon to be good. It does help a lot by being able to survive one extra charge move maybe. Drifblim's already pretty bulky, as is Greedent, but Froslass can't really take many hard hits. It is quite squishy, so it's nice to have that extra bulk where you can get it. And at the minute, there's plenty of Snorrents spawning out there. Go out, find them, get them caught, and prep and build one. I promise you it's worth it. Alright, let's take a look at some battles, but first of all, here's your quick little nudge wink wink hint. Maybe you should click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Helps me out massively. Anyway, let's jump into the first matchup. Alright, first matchup, Vigoroth lead. Now, my main thought with this team was that I was seeing a lot of Vigoroth safe swaps. Vigoroth's a very strong safe swap with counter and body slam spam, and I figured maybe something that's weak to Vigoroth serves a better purpose on the lead, which is why Greedent is on the lead, because it wouldn't make a very good safe swap if a lot of people are running Vigoroths in the back to hard shut it down. So we run Greedent on the lead, and naturally we run straight into a Vigoroth lead. We safe swap Froslass, and Froslass is able to handle that Talonflame. Now, the Talonflame could have double shielded and taken us out, and it could have forced a shield out of us if it had thrown its energy a little bit sooner. I think they underestimated how fast Froslass gets to those Shadow Balls, but we end up getting the Drifblim locked against Vigoroth, and that's a GG. The opponent surrenders. They don't want to have to deal with that. Drifblim is a super hard wall to Vigoroth, resists everything. Even if they have Brick Break for some reason instead of like Bulldoze, you're still double resisting it. Triple resisting? Either way, you're going to be fine no matter what. There are some situations where you're going to want to say swap Drifblim instead of Froslass, but that is not one of them. Against a Vigoroth lead, you say swap Froslass. If they stay in, you can win that matchup, and if they swap out, Froslass is very threatening as a safe swap. Okay, Pidgeot lead. Pidgeot lead, we don't really like to see this, so we're just staying with Greedent and go for the body slam. Spam, I think it depends. More often than not, they go for the Feather Dance, but sometimes they do go for the Brave Bird, and it will take you out. If they do that, then you just bring in Froslass to farm down. This opponent swaps out straight away to clear that debuff to preserve their Pidgeot, and this is kind of a tough position. We decide we're going to try and get a shield here with the Froslass off of this Diggersby, and then swap to Drifblim. And you might think, well, Drifblim's going to struggle here, surely. Actually, yeah, no, we catch the Fire Punch. That's absolutely fine. Drifblim, because Diggersby double resist the ghost moves, this isn't the best matchup, but also Fire Punch is its only option for damaging you, and it's a very weak non-stab move. So when it's neutral, it really struggles to take down a Pokemon with as much bulk as Drifblim has. So you can go for those Icy Wind spams, you debuff them, and Drifblim does do pretty well against Diggersby for that reason. I think from full health on neutral energy, they kind of go toe-to-toe with each other, but generally you don't have that much to worry about here. We're building up quite a bit of excess energy before we go to take them out. We do want to have some energy to potentially get an Icy Wind off on the Pidgeot if it comes back in, which it does, and this is brilliant. It's going to force the last shield or get rid of this Pidgeot. It takes them out, that's fine. We were thinking about swapping straight to Froslass, and then we hesitate because we wanted to get a debuff off, and then when we see it's their own Froslass, we swap straight to ours because we already had some energy and we have to beat them to 2 Shadow Balls to get the shield and take them out. If we'd have stayed in with Drifblim and been farmed down, they would have got to 2 Shadow Balls before us, taken us out and taken the win. So sometimes you've got to think very fast on the spot to get those kind of situations right, but it worked out for us in that one. And we've got another Vigoroth lead here, and you might think, well, this team's not looking too hot, you're getting hard counted in a lot of these lead scenarios, but you underestimate Froslass as a safe swap. I win the vast majority of Vigoroth leads that I run into with this team, despite losing lead, and sometimes even when I then lose the safe swap as well. This team is very good, and Greedent does lose to Vigoroth, but it doesn't lose that badly. If you can get shield advantage, Greedent can probably take Vigoroth in a lot of scenarios with either an energy lead or a health lead or a shield advantage. It can do pretty well. This opponent brings in a Dewgong, which, depending how they play, Dewgong can do well against Froslass, but I just go straight Shadow Balls. I'm not here to bait, I'm not here to mess about. It's only 1 Powder Snow worth of difference of energy between Avalanche and Shadow Ball. You might as well go for the Shadow Ball. And we actually take switch advantage against that Dewgong, so now we can line up Drifblim against Vigoroth, and lining this up is insanely advantageous because look at that, that body slam does absolutely nothing, the counters are doing absolutely nothing. You can build up lots of energy here before taking them out. They can survive, if they're at full health, they can survive 2 Icy Winds, and the third will just take them out, I think. But from that position, that next one would have taken them out, would have had a massive energy advantage, and we would have taken that win almost certainly. GG. Alright, jumping into the next matchup, and we get a Sableye lead. Now, Sableye, despite the fact that you're double resisting the Shadow Claws, Sableye can put a fair amount of work in on Greedent just because the foul plays hit so hard. This is not a return Sableye, so we don't have to worry about return. And I don't think return's the right call to go for anyway if you are the Sableye in this matchup, if you do have it. Maybe if you're wanting to surprise with a heavier chunk of damage, but it won't one-shot. So you might as well just go for the double foul play, I would say. Because they can just survive 2 crunches, which is pretty good for them because now we're in an awkward position where we have to get another charge move off to take them out, but we can just throw the body slam here. It's double resisted, but it'll definitely be enough to finish them off. And because Sableye is such a hard punish to Drifblim and can do very well against Froslass, it's very good that we've gotten rid of that. They bring in a Golbat and they throw so early there. They throw, we know it's a Poison Fang. Like, I think Golbat does have Shadow Ball, but they didn't have enough energy. If they've only thrown like 5 wing attacks, I think was what they've thrown there, you know it's going to be a Poison Fang, which is resisted by the Ghost typing. And even still, it's putting work in here. We are going to have to shield this, I think, either way. No, we're going to let it go. We're getting ballsy here. We're going to clear those debuffs and swap to Drifblim, because Drifblim also does well in this matchup. We get to an Icy Wind, we're going to get the last shield, or take them out, see what they want to do. We get the last shield, so it's looking like this opponent must be pretty weak to the Ghosties or the Ices in the back here. So we're going to see what they've got. I think we're going to farm down here entirely. This is another Poison Fang. Surely they haven't got enough energy, I don't think. Do they? We're going to shield again. Yeah, we're not 100% sure. That Golbat had been throwing a lot of fast moves at that point, and we weren't sure if they did have enough energy for a Shadow Ball, and we didn't want to take that by surprise and get screwed over. Now, we're just able to get to 2 Icy Winds against a Wigglytuff they've got in the back, which wasn't what I was expecting here. But the good news here is that that means that Wigglytuff's not going to get to a charge move because it takes Charm so long to build up energy. It means we can just get to this Avalanche thanks to their attack being double debuffed, and Froslass can just clutch, finish everybody off, and give us that win. GG. Pretty close match there. but still able to take that win. Despite them just banking on Wigglytuff being able to carry them through the end game there, it's still not quite enough against the overwhelming damage that Froslass can put out pretty rapidly. Now, last matchup of the first set, and we get a regular Stunfisk lead. And I think this is a good lead for Greedent. The Bullet Seed slowly chips away as it is super effective, even though it's not a very strong move. The Body Slam spam adds up, and the main thing is that you're keeping Drifblim away from this. Drifblim does not like to see the discharge from a Stunfisk, and this is a bit of a misplay. If they swap in a Vigoroth, I think you should swap in Drifblim, especially because we know that their lead is super strong against Drifblim because it's got access to discharge. So generally in this situation, you do want to swap. If they swap in a Vigoroth, you swap in Drifblim to hard wall it. If they lead a Vigoroth, you safe swap into Froslass, and then you might be able to line up Drifblim with it later. But Froslass does very well against Vigoroth. If they let the Avalanche through, you can let the Bulldoze and a Body Slam through, you will survive. That might be unique to a very defensive Froslass with very high PvP IVs, I'm not sure. But for my Froslass, I don't have to shield the Bulldoze or the Body Slam, and you can take them out, which is absolutely amazing. So we're still able to hold Greedent being lined up with this Stunfisk. Now, generally Stunfisk can go pretty much toe-to-toe with Greedent. As you can see here, if we don't shield this move, they will take us out and leave us in an awkward position. And we do have energy for a Body Slam here. We've got two actually now built up, so it's worth the shield to get these off and either get a shield and take them out, or get both shields, or, you know, just deal with this in general. I think at this point though, if they get to another charge move, if they'd have shielded that up, I would have let Greedent go down and gone for a farm down with Drifblim, and just hoped they didn't quite make it to another discharge. But they swap out into the Wigglytuff. Well, the Stunfisk goes down, getting a little bit ahead of myself there. We're going to bring in the Drifblim, start debuffing those charms, and we should just be able to get rid of them here. It's going to be a little bit close, but we've still got a shield. We can just, yeah, the charm is down, which would be scary, but we can just Bullet Seed down at this point. The charm still hits pretty hard, even though it's double debuffed, but it's not going to be enough. We just Bullet Seed down here. One more, yep, brilliant. And we would have made it to a Body Slam as well if they hadn't have gone down to the Bullet Seed anyway. GG. So able to take a 5-0 set in that first set. Like I said, this team is strong. We lost 2 leads there pretty hard, and we even had a Talonflame counter swap to our Froslass and still able to take the win. So as you can see, it's a very strong team here. Got one more set for you guys to show off just a few more matchups here and how it does work out. Just so your legends can see that I'm not bluffing about how strong this team is. Alright, Alolan Graveler lead, very positive lead I like to think for Greedent, just because Alolan Graveler does very well against both Froslass and Drifblim, so it's all about keeping it away from those two specifically. Now, Alolan Ninetales, specifically Charm Alolan Ninetales, is a very tough safe swap to deal with for this team because the Charm is so oppressive. It can really bulk its way through, especially if it's willing to commit shields. They can force their way really through any, no matter what we swap into it, it can force its way through. And we can't stay with Greedent because we have to keep that for the Graveler. But luckily they let the Shadow Ball through and we take them out, and it's worth going down a shield. We're going to throw energy at the Drifblim, which is nice because now we don't have to worry about a potential Stone Edge coming straight through on our Greedent. And we've got some energy here. And realistically, 2 crunches should be just about enough to deal with a Alolan Graveler. They swap out to Altaria in the back. We got Froslass. Now they do have a shield advantage. Froslass does very well against Altaria, but if they've got a shield advantage, they can really put work in here. Because Froslass, as we said at the beginning, is quite squishy. It cannot take those hits. But we decide to let the Sky Attack go through because we know we can survive 1 and make it to 2 avalanches. This is so we still hold on to a shield for the Greedent, and we've got a chance to build up some extra energy here. Rather than shielding up the first Sky Attack, then being able to maybe make it just to like a Moonblast or a Dragon Pulse take us out, maybe deny us that extra energy, or maybe just so they don't come in and farm us down with Graveler and have a shield of their own. Like, I feel it's just a safer option to let that Sky Attack go through, save some energy for Greedent, we throw a Crunch at the Graveler, take them out, and we are going to have enough health here to make it to a Body Slam and take out the Altaria, and that's going to be a GG. So, because you see the Powder Snow, because it's double super effective, gets them so low that it gets them into single body slam range anyway by the time that they've double shielded the avalanches up anyway. So we were still in a pretty strong position there despite having to go down a shield to control switch advantage. Okay, now I'm going to level with you guys. It is possible to hard counter this team. Now, Altaria isn't a hard counter to Greedent, but any Altaria lead probably has a solid answer to Froslass in the back, because the biggest thing Altaria has to be scared of in this meta is Charmers and Froslass. So we say swap Drifblim, because it can still very much threaten the Altaria with the Icy Wind and see what we pull out. And we pull out an Alolan Graveler. Now, we get a little bit greedy there. We should have thrown the Icy Wind. We could have got that through before they threw another Rock Blast, and we could have either made them use a shield or taken switch advantage, but instead we decided to go down 2 shields to get switch. And this isn't... Well, we were hoping to be able to throw Icy Wind at the Altaria and get some shields back, but we actually end up getting is they've got an Alolan Graveler in the back as well. And this is awful for us because now we're in this position where once again Altaria's up a shield, and they do have a little bit more energy, I believe, than the other Altaria did on lead, so they might make it to 2 Sky Attacks here before we get to 2 Avalanches. We're going to be able to make it to at least 1 here and force a shield or take them out, see what they choose to do. They're going to shield up, which is pretty nice for us, and then yet they've got another Sky Attack already really fast there, which is tough because now we have to throw 2 Body Slams to take out this Altaria. We don't really want them to get to a charge move. We want to be able to survive 1 charge move from the Graveler ideally, but it does have some energy, so we're going to throw here. We've got maybe like 1.5 bullet seeds worth of energy spare. After this, we're going to see what they do. Yeah, this Graveler's still very, very healthy, and now we don't have shields, so they can go straight for a Stone Edge, which is going to hit very, very hard, or perhaps a Thunderbolt, depending what moveset they're running. You can see we get them down to half health. This is going to be close. If it's a Stone Edge, so we won't survive it. Bang! Takes us out, and we take an L on that game. GG to the opponent. But sometimes, it's not necessarily a full hard counter line, but you have to swap out of that Altaria lead to bait out whatever Froslass counter they've got, and they just had hard counters in the back for our back line. So this team isn't perfect, no team is, but if the only games you're losing are against such hard counter lines like that, you're not looking too bad really. Now look at the start of this game. This isn't the video that's freezing up, that is my phone screen that just locked on the 3, and then all of a sudden there's a Vigoroth in, attacking my Greedent, and I'm throwing bullet seeds at it, and we decide to swap straight out to Froslass, and they don't swap out, so I think they had a bad lead and swapped to Vigoroth. I'm assuming that's what's happened here, because otherwise they'd swap out of the Vigoroth, surely. But we're gonna swap in and just see what we can do. It's obviously not a brilliant position, so we figure in case it wasn't a say swapped in Vigoroth, we want to swap in Froslass because it still does well, but also we save the Drifblim for whatever's in the back potentially. So, with a few HP and a Dream, we take out the Vigoroth, we control switch advantage, and that looked like a Volt Switch that came through, but I didn't catch the Pokemon Graveler. We land a Shadow Ball, that's fantastic, monstrous damage there. So we're going to bring back in the Greedent, they swap out to an Altaria, and even though we've not got Froslass locked on this, Drifblim does absolutely fine. We can shield up this Sky Attack. They get to the Sky Attack here first, just because they have a slight energy advantage from swapping in, but in general, Drifblim does slightly outpace Altaria, and the Icy Wind, anything that's double super effective, does absolutely devastating damage, even to something bulky like Altaria. They can technically survive it, but it gets them very, very low, and it does get both shields out of them here. And I think at this point, we might let this go. No, we're going to shield it. Yeah, it's worth shielding up. We're a little bit conscious of them trying to catch on Graveler, and they swap, we catch the charge move, and we store an Icy Wind on Drifblim. So that's absolutely crucial for us. Now we're in a very, very strong position. I believe Drifblim wins CMP tight against Altaria anyway. So as soon as the Altaria comes back in, we can just throw the Icy Wind straight away and take them out. Now, I disagree with throwing the Crunch here. In any neutral scenario, in any matchup where both moves are hitting for neutral, Body Slam is more energy efficient. In fact, I think it even hits slightly hard. I think it does 1 or 2 damage more in most matchups, depending on their defense stat. So we only really needed to get to 3 Body Slams rather than a Crunch and 2 Body Slams because we didn't get the defense drop. But either way, we get to them, take them out. They knew they had to farm us down to have energy for the Drifblim. That's why they didn't throw and take us out sooner. And GG to them. But like I said, it wouldn't have mattered if they did get the farm down. We still have the Icy Wind stored, and I do believe Drifblim wins that CMP. Alright, another nice spike of lag at the start of a match, and then all of a sudden 2-1, by the way, it's a Vigoroth. But doesn't matter. We're going to say swap our Froslass, see what they want to do, and they bring in a Mandibuzz. And this is a Snarl Mandibuzz, which I believe is the worst case scenario for Froslass because it's super effective and does chip away quite a bit more on top. They do let the Avalanche through, which I believe is an interesting choice. They're getting greedy with energy, and now we can force a shield. And now we have the option of letting them take us out and still having shield advantage, or we can double shield and farm them down. We actually let the foul play through and we can survive it. I wasn't sure if we would, and it turns out a very high defensive build. Froslass does survive that, and that means we can farm them down. That's absolutely crazy. Now, they could have thrown another foul play there. They had the energy. They definitely had the energy and could have forced another shield out of us, but I believe they thought they could win the farm down and come out with all that energy on top, which puts us in a very strong position. And yeah, we've benefited quite heavily from the opponent misjudging that matchup there and underestimating Froslass, but also, you know, matches are either made up of your right decisions or your mistakes, or their right decisions or their mistakes, and that's just the way it goes a lot of the time. Like I said, we did have the option of double shielding and taking out the Mandibuzz, I believe, once they had let that first Avalanche through, and I believe it would have been worthwhile to do that, just because at that point, as you can see, Drifblim is such a dominant matchup over Vigoroth. I believe it would have been worth being at a shield disadvantage for that. And now we've got Greedent against the Froslass, which isn't brilliant, but for some reason they throw a Shadow Ball. Wouldn't have mattered. Avalanche wouldn't have taken us out either. They would have had to get to 2. We would have been able to throw a Crunch and do massive damage, and we would have taken that win, at that point. GG. I'm telling you guys right now in the Holiday Cup, you either have to be prepared for Vigoroth save swaps or Froslass save swaps. They're both very, very powerful, and they will both really throw you out if you're not prepared to hang with them. Last matchup now, and again, we get the weird 3-second freeze up, followed by what all of a sudden in the action with a Graveler that then swaps out to Altaria. And you guys know how this goes. Again, very, very dominant position. We're very quick on the swap here to Froslass, which means we get to this Avalanche first, so we're not even pressured to shield at all. We take them straight out, and yes, Alolan Graveler does well against Froslass, but it has to throw energy, so they cannot really take much advantage from this position. We're not going to shield the Rock Blast, and I don't think we're quite going to be able to get an Avalanche off ourselves, but it doesn't matter. We get farmed down, we've got a Crunch already to throw. This is going to get them, you know, to about a third health, so they're now within single Crunch range. If we'd have got the defense drop, I think they'd actually be close to Body Slam range with the Bullet Seeds at this point. And yeah, we were going to go in for the Body Slam. We're optimistic that this will take them out. I mean, it is a strong stab move. Alolan Graveler is not the bulkiest thing around. It is a little bit more attack weighted. For the Great League it is, at least. Anyway, we don't shield the Stone Edge because we know that it's pretty much already dealt with. They've got a Diggersby in the back. We can now go for this Icy Wind spam and just deal with this. I believe this opponent does do some tricky play and actually makes this a little bit closer than you would actually expect it to be. They're going for this Fire Punch spam though, and that's no stress at all. I think we're going to go for the next Icy Wind as fast as possible, I think, get them debuffed. I'm not sure at this point. We're very conscious that the Graveler is not actually knocked out, which means they can swap out and clear these debuffs at some point. So I think we're hanging on to this shield at this point. They actually swap into Graveler and catch this Icy Wind, but it turns out they want the Graveler alive, so they're going to actually shield up. We have energy on Greedent, we can swap straight away, throw a Body Slam before the Volt Switch that they're then going to throw registers, so we take out the Graveler, we've still got our shield, but as you can see, Drifblim's starting to get pretty low at this point. This Diggersby has now got a full attack stat back, so then it's worth using the shield, because that's one of the harder hitting Fire Punches that they would have thrown left in the game. Now we only need to get to one more Icy Wind to take them out. We can survive one more Fire Punch, and that's what they're doing there. They're building up to back-to-back Fire Punches, and they were very close to having them. They had a lot of energy there, and we were just able to get the Icy Wind. I think there was only one turn in it there for us getting that Icy Wind off and taking them out. GG to that opponent, and we take a 4-1. So we lost one game out of 2 sets back-to-back, and that's fantastic considering that we had 3 Vigoroth leads. So let me know down below what you guys think of the team. Are you playing Holiday Cup? Are you sticking to Ultra League or the Ultra Remix? I personally much prefer the Holiday Cup, but I'm going to be bringing you guys a couple more teams in the Ultra League. I've got a couple of spicy lines I think they'll put some serious work in, especially if you don't have those Meta XL Pokemon. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. If you have, you're an absolute legend. I hope you guys are having a great holiday season wherever you are in the world and whatever you celebrate, and I will catch you all next time.